Don't? In Japan, we have a famous phrase. It is お客様は神様です. In English, it literally means the customer is God. Yes, the same as a real God. Even if work so hard for them, they never give us any tips. Meshida jokes about Japan. Hey guys, it's Meshida. I'm a comedian and I introduce funny Japanese culture. Today, I'm going to be reacting to a video called 12 Things Not to Do in Japan. Of course, I try to say some jokes about it too, so let's check it out. Meshida! それでは、行きます。
So walking down the street whilst eating and drinking isn't illegal. You're not going to get shouted at and you're not going to get arrested by Ace Detective Sherlock Bones. But what you will get is the stare of disapproval.
Yes, that is a reason why Japanese people try to follow the rules. Foreigners misunderstand Japanese. We are not obedient. We are just peer pressured.
Don't know this one until you get here and never see anyone doing it. What you'll find is if someone wants to eat or drink something quickly outside, they'll buy at the convenience store and then eat it or drink it out the front. Same with vending machines. If they buy something from the vending machine, they'll drink it there and then next to the vending machine.
But even though the trash can is packed, we don't care. This is a correct place for it, so we leave it there. To foreigners, this would be malicious compliance.
The main reason is people are very conscious about keeping the streets clean here, and you don't want to ruin someone else's day by having them walk through your spilt coffee. That said, all you need to do to avoid the stare of disapproval is just stop and eat and drink whatever it is there and then. Maybe it's on a bench, maybe you're just standing at the side of the road, whatever. Just don't walk whilst eating and drinking and you'll be alright.
Yes, I agree with him. But in some tourist spots and on festival days, there are many stores, and in these places, you are allowed to eat while walking. In Japan, there are places to do things that are usually seen as bad manners. Only in those places can we enjoy it. For example, love hotels. なんかYes.
Three things to point out here. Number one, never put your
when I was a
chopsticks upright
kid,
into the rice,
every time
this
I
is
did
part
this,
of a ritual
my
conducted at
parents
funerals
got angry with me. Yes,
to the
because that's a
spirit
funeral
of the
thing.
deceased. Similarly, number two, never pass things from chopstick to chopstick, because again, this is done during funerals to pass the bones of cremated relatives. So that kind of imagery doesn't go down well over dinner, as you'd expect. Probably best not to conjure up imagery surrounding death before you've even had your lunch.
So, before foreigners attend a Japanese-style funeral, you should practice using chopsticks because it's very difficult to pass the bones with chopsticks. This is a chance to show off your skills.
Oh, and thirdly, don't do the rubbing of the chopsticks. You know when you open wooden chopsticks, you like to do that to
I don't know why you guys want to do this one.
Fun. Everyone loves doing that, right? But don't do it in Japan because it's seen as rude to the owner, because you're basically saying, oh, your chopsticks
it depends on, but basically cheap, it's rude.
Which, let's face it, they probably are. But in fact, they usually definitely are.
I think foreigners often need chopsticks in a weird way, but we Japanese love to see it. Because this is the only time we feel superior to Western people. You guys look like giant kids. I like his face. Don't?
Probably the greatest thing about Japan ever, and the reason that I eat out several times a week, just because I save 20% automatically. In Japan, it's believed that customer service should always be exceptional, with staff giving 120% every time.
That's so true.
110%, 120% would be ridiculous.
In Japan, we have a famous phrase. It is お客様は神様です. In English, it literally means the customer is God. Yes, the same as a real God. Even if work so hard for them, they never give us any tips.
But it's not necessarily rude to tip someone, it just creates this awkward situation where the worker, the staff would feel like you're assessing their performance and they could potentially lose face. So you might think you're being nice by giving someone a tip, but you're not. You're just creating an uncomfortable situation for the worker and they'll probably just reject your tip outright. So don't be tempted to do it.
So, we Japanese are always surprised when we go to restaurants abroad. Why do they accept tips even though they provide shitty service? Customers should refuse to give tips, especially in Paris. Their customer service is always don't. Yes, every time I take a phone call on public transport, Japanese people glare at me. Then I understand the feelings of foreigners who live in Japan.
There's a real emphasis on being mindful when you're using public transport in Japan that's often completely absent in many countries.
Even though the phone
Numerous
is
of the times
bowing.
that I've been riding a train in the UK and someone nearby has been screaming at their partner down the phone and I felt like I was part of the argument. Like
in the UK,
unpleasant
in the
4D
train, on the train,
But given
so
Japan's
noisy.
density, it's especially important to be mindful when you're stuffed in a train alongside fellow commuters, many of whom are sleeping as well. With that in mind, don't ever talk on your phone on the train. That's a massive, no thing to do here. And even talking loudly is looked down upon. If you're on a local train or a subway train and you get a phone call, just ignore it until you get off. And if you're on a bullet train, you can go to the little compartment in between the carriages and take your call there.
Or you should take it and say, すいません、今電車なんで後でかけ直します. Or in English, oh sorry, I'm on the train, I'll call you later. So, Japanese people think, oh, you are a good gaijin. なんだ名詞名詞交換oh, don't do that. Don't.
I remember for the first few years that I lived here, whenever someone
because when I was employee, Meshi was everything.
Until then,
it's
business
very
cards to me had
important
always
for
just
us.
been a bit of paper or a bit of card with some writing on. But in Japan, they are so much more. Once you've exchanged business cards, the trick is to imagine you've just been handed the lost treasure of El Salvador or something. First, study it meticulously, the name, the job position, the details. And then either put it in your business card holder or just put it on the desk if you're at a business meeting, put it on the table. Never play around with business cards or put them in your back pocket because they're seen as a physical extension.
Physical extension.
And you don't want to stuff somebody's physical extension down your back pocket. If you're doing business in Japan, always carry business cards. You don't want to be that awkward foreigner who stood there writing out their name and number 50 times in 1 hour on the back of a tissue. And for the record, I am usually that awkward foreigner scribbling down my details because I do forget to bring them and subsequently I hate myself when it happens.
Yes, business cards are very important for Japanese salaryman, our employee. Their company and position are everything to them. Unlike China, we don't need to have a credit score because we have a Meishi, our business card. For marriageable women, when they look for their future husband, more than anything, Meishi, our business card, is the most important thing. Anyway, my Meishi doesn't work at all. 次はなんだDon't? Actually, we blow our noses in public, but when do it in public, unlike foreigners, we do it modestly and silently, the same as blowjobs.
If you've got a runny nose, standard procedure here is just to keep sniffing,
to
find a toilet or a broom cupboard to hide in. Blowing noses in public is pretty rude. Interestingly though, handkerchiefs are pretty popular. Not
especially
in the way you would think
business
so. People use them to wipe sweat off in the hot summer weather, or even more commonly to dry their hands in public toilets. Because surprisingly, many public toilets in Japan don't have any hand-drying facilities, despite having space-age toilets that reside in the same room. It's quite a weird contrast that I don't quite understand.
Do you guys know, when we want to use the toilet, we Japanese say, I'll go otearai. In English, it literally means, I'll go wash my hands, even though we don't do it. So, from now on, we should say, I'll go oshiri arai. It means, I'll go wash my asshole. Don't?
Physical contact in Japan isn't really
compared to Western
bow
people,
a lot,
we don't
you'll
do
nod
this. Yeah.
enthusiastically daily, but occasionally you might shake hands with someone if they're a good friend or a business client that you get on well with. But generally,
I often
avoid
shake
it unless
hands with
someone
my
makes the
friends.
first move. And hugging in particular doesn't go down well. It's met with expressions of awkwardness and despair. And also amongst couples, public displays of affection are phenomenally rare here. So don't be surprised if you get the stare of disapproval if you're kissing your partner frantically in the street.
But now, under this corona pandemic, Western people should learn our Japanese culture because we don't really like getting into someone's personal space. Even married couples don't do that.
And I think that it should definitely be this.
Don't?
If you're the sort of person who feels the need to have a debate or an argument about things, or throw your opinions out there constantly, people will find you obnoxious and dislikable and probably just avoid you. Embedded heavily within the culture is this idea of keeping harmony, and avoiding conflict at all costs. And it's a lot easier to do that when people aren't at each other's throats, throwing around opinions. Sometimes it can be frustrating when people are just unwilling to speak their minds or give you a clear yes or no answer.
In Japan, reading the room is a very important skill. If we meet a Japanese person who doesn't read the room, we will judge them and kick them out of the group. But there is one magical word that can save them. It is, I am from the US.
I mean, one time, one of my colleagues when I was teaching, I asked him, do you have any pets? And he said to me, maybe my cat is dead. Maybe your cat is dead.
I totally understand his feeling. I often say, maybe I'm hungry, maybe I'm hungry.
It turned out the cat was definitely dead, but he was just the sort of person that always liked to use the word maybe and just not express certainty. But if there's one reason I've never seen a fight anywhere in Japan in the last 5 years, it's probably this reason. That people are a lot more careful about expressing their opinions and holding back what they really think.
Except for on Twitter. We show our dark sides on it, of course anonymously. Doing so helps us distress, unless we are on the receiving end. Don't?
Yeah, I couldn't be bothered to film that one. Everyone seems to know this one already anyway. When visiting someone's house or entering a public building like a school or going to a hot spring, you take off your shoes and switch to slippers before you go in. The easiest way of knowing if you have to change your shoes is there'll be a change in elevation in the floor. So when you go in,
it's kind of obvious.
Stare, and that's when you know. This is the one thing on the list where failing to stick to the rules will have noticeable results. A few years ago, a friend and I visited a public bathhouse in Kyoto, and we went in, and you're supposed to take your shoes off. For some reason, he didn't. I don't know why. I don't think he noticed or saw. There was a little old woman sitting behind the entrance counter where you come in, and when we walked in, she saw that he still had his shoes on, and she shot up with terrifying energy, ran over, grabbed him and took him to the front and was like, get your shoes off, get your shoes off. And that image has stayed burnt into my mind.
Really?
This quiet little old woman suddenly becoming so alive and animated on this terrible event. And ever since then, I've never forgotten to take my shoes off when entering a building.
But I think his experience was rare because in Kyoto, people usually just complain about things indirectly. They often use tatemae in their conversations. Tatemae means public facade, while honne means our real feelings. In Kyoto, if they said, would you like another cup of tea? This means you are taking too long, get the fuck out. I made a video about it. If you are interested in that, please check it out.
For whatever reason, rubbish bins and trash cans are disturbingly rare in Japan. Outside of convenience stores,
a lot of my foreign friends
and the reason I put this on the list is because so many people, so many of you guys message me on Twitter saying, I'm in Tokyo and I can't find a bin, what should I do? I've wandered through Tokyo for up to 20 minutes sometimes just in search of a bin and can't find
20
one.
minutes?
The streets though, despite that, are shockingly clean here because people, if they can't find a bin, they just take the rubbish home with them. It can feel like some kind of mini game sometimes, going in search for a bin, because when you do find a bin, you feel a real sense of achievement. But despite that, don't be tempted to litter. Just keep trying, and you'll find a bin one day.
I call convenience stores rubbish bins. I like this music. なんだ? don't.
Seems like a fairly obvious addition to the list, and yet in the UK we just cross the street whenever the hell we want, whenever there's an opening in traffic, as opposed to waiting for the green light. Same as many countries. In Japan, however, people do not cross the road on a red light. It's incredibly rare, and it's one of the greatest ways of seeing this sense of order and obedience to the law that exists.
Many Japanese people follow the rules.
If you stand at a roadside in Japan and there's no cars coming, you can't see any cars whatsoever, people still will not cross the road until it goes green. Over the years of the many friends I've had come to visit me here, this is the thing that shocks them the most. The idea of not crossing the street when there's no visible cars there. The idea of abiding by a rule that doesn't seem necessary.
In Japan, there is a famous phrase, 赤信号みんなで渡れば怖くない. In English, it means when everyone's crossing on the red, it's not so scary. When someone breaks a rule, we follow them. When we wait for the crossing signal on the empty street, we wait unless someone else crosses first.
And yet, for me personally, the main reason I abide by it is after a few years of being here, you don't want to stand out. You don't want to be this stereotypical rule-breaking foreigner. And as well as that, you don't want to run the risk of getting caught out by the police. So those are two things worth taking into consideration before you dash across the seemingly empty road. And the last one, don't worry about not knowing anything about Japanese etiquette when you come to Japan. As I said earlier in this video, there aren't going to be any real consequences to not following any of these things, apart from maybe the footwear one. That's quite scary. You don't want to get dragged off by an old woman. The reason I say don't worry too much is because I find a lot of people come here and they're very nervous and very anxious about following the etiquette they don't really comprehend. And that includes even me. When I came here, I didn't know anything. And I was constantly anxious and nervous that I was making mistakes. But really, as a foreigner in Japan, you get a kind of a free pass to make mistakes. People are understanding and they're kind, and they will let you off. So don't become too nervous about following all the rules. Do your best, but don't become a nervous wreck.
In Japan, we call foreigners gaijin. And there is something called gaijin privilege, because we think of foreigners as aliens. So we don't expect them to know our rules and language. I highly recommend that foreigners visit Japan. You can take advantage. Even if you can only speak 2 words of Japanese or can barely use chopsticks, or if you only sometimes remember to take off your shoes, everyone will be very amazed at your skills. はぁ、日本語お上手ですね。Some foreigners who live in Japan a long time often complain they are treated like foreigners. But I think it's better than being treated as Japanese. It is very tough.
So those are my 12 things not to do in Japan, but what have I missed out? Let us know in the comments section below. I've probably missed out. Don't ever be late. Don't enter a bath or a hot spring without having a shower first. Those are probably the other 2 key ones that I've missed out. And now they're on the list, so this is actually 14 things not to do in Japan.
Okay,
so,
14.
Bonus stuff there. It's Christmas, so you get extra content.
So, that's all. Meshida. I really love this video. This is awesome. And if you have a video you want me to make fun of or joke about, please write it in your comment below. So, see you soon. Bye bye.